Jörn Scharlau, a 34-year-old family man, leaves his cell phone store around noon in August 2004 to visit someone. He promises to be back soon, but the hours pass and there is no sign of Jörn. Around noon, he writes to his colleague saying that he will not be coming back today and asking her to close up the store. His wife also waits for him in vain that evening. She texts him, "Where are you?" He replies an hour and a half later, "Need time to think, things aren't working out between us. I'll get in touch with you in the next few days, don't worry." But of course, the text message has the exact opposite effect, because the message doesn't sound like Jörn at all. His wife quickly assumes that something must have happened to the family man, and she has no idea that her feeling will be confirmed only a short time later. On August 30th, 2004, Jörn Scharlau, a 34-year-old family man, disappears without a trace. He has worked at his cell phone store in the Lindenthal Center shopping center in Neubrandenburg until noon, as he does every day. He then leaves the store to meet someone and never returns. At 2:42 p.m., he sends his employee a text message. "Not coming into work today. Could you please close up?" When he doesn't come home that evening, his father is the first to send him a worried text message. At 8:16 p.m., his wife texts him, "Where are you?" At 9:46 p.m., she receives the message you've already heard in the intro. "Need time to think, things aren't working out between us anymore. I'll get in touch with you in a few days and don't worry." After that, there is 3 days of radio silence, until his wife writes to him on September 2nd at 8:13 a.m. "Are you coming back?" 9 minutes later, at 8:22 a.m., she receives an answer. "Yes, I think so. It seems that way. I didn't plan on leaving you. I need some time and have to think about what I can change about myself." Jörn's wife finds all these messages very strange. Her husband has dyslexia, which is why he usually avoided sending text messages. The whole behavior is very uncharacteristic for him, and the way of writing also does not suit him, which is why she assumes that someone else is pretending to be Jörn. Her concern is so great that she finally goes to the police. 3.5 weeks after Jörn's disappearance, the Homicide Division begins its investigation, and it is faced with a big mystery. There are very few clues about Jörn's disappearance, and nothing to suggest that he might have fled the country or gone missing voluntarily. Therefore, they suspect a crime. Detective Inspector Olaf Hildebrandt interviews the staff at Jörn's cell phone store. It turns out that Jörn has been having an affair with his wife for some time. At 10:30 a.m. on the day of his disappearance, he still calls his wife. At 11:08 a.m., he calls his lover Silke M. and arranges to meet her. At 11:30 a.m., he sets off, and at 12 noon, he arrives at her apartment. Just a quarter of an hour later, he leaves the apartment again to drive back to the cell phone store. But he never arrives there. Investigators wonder what might have happened on the way back. Jörn always parked in the underground parking garage of the shopping center. Therefore, they want to check whether he might still have arrived there, possibly even accompanied. The underground parking garage is monitored by video, but when the homicide squad investigates, the recordings from the day of Jörn's disappearance have already been overwritten. It seems as if there are no more clues to follow up on. But shortly thereafter, it is noticed that Jörn withdrew money with his debit card on the day of his disappearance. The bank branch's security cameras are then checked. Although a man can be seen on the recordings, it is not Jörn Scharlau. A young man with a shaved head withdraws 500 euros from Jörn's account at the Lindenthal Center at 1:50 p.m. At 6:55 p.m., he withdraws another 500 euros from another branch. And not even an hour and a half later, at 8:15 p.m., he withdraws another 1,000 euros from the same branch. The following day, a Tuesday, He withdraws 1,000 euros from a bank in Hamburg. At 1:53 p.m., he tries to withdraw money again from a Commerzbank in Kloppenburg. This time, the debit card is confiscated because Jörn's wife has since had his account blocked. Investigators suspect that it was either someone who had targeted Jörn to get his money, or that it could have been because of his affairs. Jörn apparently had multiple female contacts, some of whom were themselves taken or married. It is possible that an angry partner could have been the culprit. On September 17th, Jörn's car is found in Neustrelitz, almost 30 kilometers away. The car, which now had stolen license plates, had collided with a curb. Witnesses reported seeing a woman with red-dyed hair and two bald men get out of the car and run away. Officers found a jacket in the car. Both the jacket and the car itself are checked for DNA traces. Inside the vehicle, they look for fingerprints, hair, fiber traces, and skin flakes. When they check the stolen license plate, they find what they are looking for. On September 8th, a little more than a week after Jörn's disappearance, his car is filmed at a gas station about 40 kilometers from Neustrelitz. A man gets gas at 2:44 a.m. and then doesn't pay. The security footage is of better quality than the ATM footage, which is why the man looks familiar to the police officers. They have had dealings with him several times before for minor offenses. The man is 23-year-old Stefan K. His girlfriend is 21-year-old Sandy B. She has red-dyed hair and fits the description of the witnesses. This is how the police can also identify the second man. He is 24-year-old Sven S., a good friend of Stefan. The two met in prison. In mid-August, Sven did not return from a furlough and has been wanted by the police ever since. Forensics DNA results leave no doubt that the three are the ones who were driving Jörn's car. Jörn's cell phone records show that he spoke with Sandy shortly before his disappearance. She lives near the shopping center with her 1-year-old child. The police go to her house and confront her with their knowledge. Sandy says that she signed a cell phone contract with Jörn and still had questions about it. But she had nothing to do with his disappearance. Sandy spoke to Jörn on the phone 3 times in total. Once was 2 days before his disappearance, and twice on the day of his disappearance. Sven S. is still on the run, and the police have not been able to locate him. Sandy's boyfriend Stefan K. is arrested and held in custody. At his interrogation, he initially denies everything. But when he is confronted with the surveillance footage, he blames Sven entirely. He claims that Sven attacked Jörn in the underground car park of the Lindenthal Center and took him to a wooded area where he was no longer followed. The investigators then re-examine the underground car park. They look for blood splatter, first in the vicinity of Jörn's parking space and later in the entire car park. However, without success. Meanwhile, the search for Sven continues at full speed. He keeps getting in touch with Sandy, but only very briefly, which is why they can't locate him. On October 7th, his cell phone logs into a cell in Hamburg. His old cell phone data shows that he was already in Hamburg once in August, and at that time had a pizza delivered to Washington Alley. Since the address is still stored with the apartment and floor at the delivery service, the Hamburg police drive by there. At first, they try to listen inconspicuously when suddenly noises come from the apartment. Sven apparently noticed that they were looking for him and therefore climbed over the narrow window ledge into the neighboring apartment. From there, he managed to escape via the stairwell. Because the officers continued to monitor Sandy's cell phone, they learned that Sven fled to Amsterdam and then traveled to Turnhout in Belgium. He arrived in the town in northern Belgium on November 7th. In the late afternoon of that day, local politician Tony D. disappears. He had previously attended a football game and then packed his car in the garage in the backyard at home. Shortly afterwards, he and his car disappear without a trace. When the police check the location of the missing person's cell phone, they find out that he is moving in the direction of the Netherlands. At 7:38 p.m., 500 euros are withdrawn from his account. The surveillance footage shows 2 masked men. After that, his cell phone moves further toward the North Sea and arrives in the Dutch town of Katwijk the next morning. Investigators manage to listen in on one of Sven's phone calls, during which he shouts, "Quiet back there, or I'll smash your face in." At this point, no one suspects that Sven is also responsible for Tony D's disappearance. Only later can it be concluded that he kidnapped him and has him with him. The following day, investigators find Tony D's body in the shallow water of the North Sea. He was pushed underwater before his throat was slit. Tony D's cell phone is still being monitored. His black Audi is still missing. Eventually, the cell phone moves back to northern Germany. And on November 14th, the SEK manages to stop the black Audi about 100 kilometers north of Berlin. In the car are Sven and a Dutchman, who is the second man on the surveillance footage. A knife with Tony D's blood is also found in the car. Sven and the other man are arrested. Sven confesses to the murder of Jörn Scharlau. However, he describes a different course of events than Stefan did at the time. He says that Jörn liked to flirt with young women and bragged about his money. He did this to Sandy when they went to his place to discuss a cell phone contract. Her boyfriend Stefan, who apparently needed money, suggested luring Jörn to Sandy's apartment, beating him up, plundering his account, and then strangling him. The investigators then examined Sandy's apartment. At first, everything seems unremarkable. But the living room smells of paint, and the floor looks very new. In fact, the carpet has been recently laid, and the walls have been recently painted. Investigators can find traces of blood under the carpet with black light, and the DNA can be assigned to Jörn. As a result, Sandy is also remanded in custody. But the question still remains as to where Jörn's body is. Sven is very cooperative and wants to show the police the location. Together they drive to Lower Saxony, about 500 kilometers away. At first, Sven has trouble finding the right spot. When he finally locates it, he asks to be allowed to dig up Jörn's body himself. He sees this as reparation for his actions. However, the police do not allow this and start digging themselves. They soon find Jörn's body, wrapped in a blanket from his car. He had been strangled. Sven, Stefan, and Sandy disposed of the body together, withdrawing money from Jörn's account several times on the way. Sven and Stefan were sentenced to life imprisonment for their actions. Sandy was tried under juvenile law and received a 7-year prison sentence. Jörn Scharlau and Tony D had to die for just 3,500 euros. And that brings us to the end of today's video. 2 people had to die for an amount of just 3,500 euros. Jörn's children now have to grow up without their father, a loss that no amount of money can make up for. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, I would be happy to receive a thumbs up and a comment. This way, we can trick YouTube's algorithm a bit, and the video is more likely to be suggested to people who have not yet subscribed to Insolito. Thank you very much in advance, and thank you for your support. I thank you for watching and wish you a good morning, afternoon, or evening. Or depending on when you watch the video, and hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, ciao guys.